it's Jessie from Squeegee Ink, and welcome back to Printer's Corner. This is where I answer the questions you've given me throughout the week, and I go into a little bit more depth. If you'd like your question answered like this, simply use hashtag Printer's Corner or give us a direct message on any social media platforms and we'll pick those up and answer them in a video. Don't forget to stick around for the results of this week's community poll. You can get involved in our community poll by going to the community tab on our YouTube channel and answering all the questions, and we will reveal the answers to this week's one at the end of the episode. The main questions today are about what to do if your film is sticking to the emulsion after you've exposed it, what emulsion we use in our studio for getting good details, and also what type of ink we generally use in our studio. Our first question is from Juan Juvera 1, and they said, my film seems to stick to the dry emulsion when I'm burning it. Is there a way to stop that? Yes. So even if your emulsion feels dry, you've left it there for a few hours, there's actually probably some humidity and moisture in the emulsion still. So you're ideally trying to drive the humidity out of your drying room to under 40%. And the only way to know that really is by getting a little humidity monitor. I got mine off Amazon and it works great. Tells you the temperature, the humidity. So I won't be exposing screens in there if it's over 50, definitely. So ideally I'm trying to get to 40. The way I do that is by having like some dry, warm air circulating. I've even got a little extractor fan to like let it circulate. And yeah, I'm typically just trying to get it really nice and even under 40%. Another thing that might be a factor if your films are sticking to the emulsion after you've exposed them is that you might not have let your film positive dry, so the ink on the film positive. So you could even speed that up with a little light hair dry. I've definitely done that in the past. You could just leave them for half an hour, let that moisture evaporate out of the ink and try that. Or if you don't have a dehumidifier in your room to help drive out the moisture, you can just leave your screens overnight. And typically, especially in the UK, that's going to mainly do it anyway. If you're in a really humid, hot country, though, you do have to keep an eye on this. Our next question is from Victor Perilata 915. And they said, what emulsion do you use? I love the details. Hashtag Printer's Corner. I actually use an emulsion called Azicol Z1, and the reason I use that is because it's nice and high definition, but the main thing is that it's really robust against lots of different ink types, and I need that because I make screens for other people and I send them out all over the country, and they use loads of different inks, so I don't want to have to switch up my emulsions for whatever they're using. So it is a more expensive emulsion than ones that you can just typically get your hands on really easily. So that's the reason I use it. I would advise you guys to just start off with an emulsion that's a little bit cheaper, but still very effective. So one like ScreenSol QT. You can get that from Screen Print World. You can use our discount code too, which is CRP5. I'll leave a link as well to their website so that you can find it really easily. That one's going to be effective against lots of different inks, but definitely ask your screen print supplier if you're going to start using something like a discharge ink. You need to make sure your emulsion can withstand having lots of moisture on it for a whole print run and not start breaking down. Our third question today is from Megan Marie 25, and we were printing in a TikTok video. We were printing water-based inks, wet on wet. And they asked on that TikTok video, they said, hi, do you mind sharing what kind of ink you use? I'm using Speedball right now and it's spendy. Speedball is quite expensive per milliliter if you think about it, because it comes in a tiny little pot. It is normally targeted towards hobbyists. So I would start to get into like what the professionals are using. We have different inks for different circumstances. I'm not trying to confuse you, but I'm going to tell you which inks we use for certain jobs. So If it was a job where we're using plastisol ink and we needed to mix up a Pantone colour, I would use my International Coatings mixing system, so I get the exact colour. If it was just a job for a blind maggot where the colour, it doesn't have to be a Pantone, for example, and you can just use a pot colour, I would use plastisol ink for those flat colours, and I'd probably just use Amex ink, plastisol ink. So that's from the screen print world again. If it was a job where I wanted Pantone mixed water-based ink, I would go for the Magna Colours one because they have a Pantone mixing system for Magna Colours. Or there's another circumstance, which is I do live printing events and I have to use ink that is really user-friendly, doesn't smell, washes off your hands really easily, and that type of thing. And it doesn't have to be Pantone mixed. So for that, I would definitely choose a Permaset ink because they're just really user-friendly, easy to wash off. I can leave it in the screen in between prints while talking to people and showing them how to print. So that's the ink of choice for live printing at the moment. To answer the main question from this week's video, which is what is the best ink for screen printing? And it does depend on your circumstances and what you can afford, but the easiest to use is probably plastisol ink. However, you need to invest in equipment such as a conveyor dryer and a flash dryer to properly cure it. The cheapest way into screen printing is going to be to use a water-based ink, such as Permaset, for example. And it's because it's got a low cost to entry. You do need to be a little bit quicker with your printing, but it's definitely going to get you printing on day one without too much investment. I hope I've answered all of your questions. It's now time for this week's community poll.
Community poll.
The question from this week is, are you a mixed shop? And by that I meant, are you water-based ink only, plastisol only? Are you a plastisol and water-based shop? Or the other option was, don't print on fabrics, we use something else like solvents or something. So over almost 60% of the results were saying that they are a plastisol only shop. So that's quite interesting. I thought it was actually going to be more 50-50 with the water-based and plastisol. It is interesting. There are lots of programs at the moment where ink companies are trying to get you into plastisol ink and trying to get you over the challenges of using water-based, and just like giving you some hints and tips. So for example, Magna Colours have a whole program about how to get you into water-based ink printing, which you might find handy. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Don't forget to join into the community poll questions. You can answer old questions as well. That's completely fine. Get involved in the discussions, and you can find that in the community section of the Squeegee Ink YouTube channel. I hope you have a really good week printing, and give us any more insight into what you're using in your screen print studio and any advice for any new printers out there.